the system that we live in, the society that we live in, has been built to actually keep us down and stupid and sick and lethargic in some sort of way. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about how you should reclaim your personal power. And I want you to understand that almost every important decision that you make, and the majority of the small decisions that you make, come from either one of two places in your mind. One of them is out of fear, or the other one is out of your personal power, like your own internal power. And I've got a thing I want you to think about with me for a second. And I had this, I like to kind of like, my mind and my imagination's pretty crazy. I like to come up with crazy thoughts and ideas, and then I like to play with them and philosophize and see what could possibly be. And imagine, like, what if this actually was true? And so the other day I was in a meditation, and I was outside and it was kind of cold, and I was looking up at the moon and I was meditating, going back and forth, looking at the moon, closing my eyes, sitting there for a minute, like playing with this idea. And I've been thinking about this, and once again, this is just go with me on this. I'm not saying that this is absolute reality. But as of recently, I've been thinking in my mind, like, it's so weird that in the United States, we have so many known food chemicals that are toxic to humans that keep people fat and overweight and sick and unhealthy. And it's so weird that, like, we have this. And they've known for over 30 years that there's a problem, but they haven't changed it. And so I was like, why is that? And I was like, what if, and go on this journey with me, what if we are so ridiculously powerful and the system that we live in, the society that we live in, has been built to actually keep us down and stupid and sick and lethargic in some sort of way? I started thinking about this and like playing with this idea, and I was like, well, where else does it show up? Where it's like, okay, so we have, these chemicals that are in food that keep us fat and sick and lethargic. We have phones that are designed to keep us addicted to them so that we just sit there and stare at them and we do nothing with our lives. We have TVs that keep us staring at them for hours. We have news that shows us the worst of the worst in life and scares people into being afraid. And all of that really gets in the way of our brain's processing power. So we're more tired and we're not thinking well and we're not doing what we could. And it's all very, like, I would guess I could say that the feeling is very like restrictive, almost like being in a straitjacket. It's not like this expansive thing. And so what if you and I and everybody else on this earth, humans, were some of the most powerful beings in the entire universe, but we just never realized it? And maybe it's just that we don't realize it, or maybe it is that there is a system that is built to keep us down. I don't know. I started toying with this idea and I was like, well, what if we are so powerful we just don't realize it? And what if you listening to me right now are 10 million times more powerful than you think that you are, and you're constantly creating the reality that you're thinking in your head? So you think it and it immediately comes into reality. What if you're literally projecting reality and it's creating itself every single moment? Now, that's just kind of the idea. I wanted to bring that in for you to think about for a second as we go through this, right? And this is what made me really start to think about this episode. Let's now go back to your decisions and what I was talking about, where all of your decisions come from one of two places, either fear or power. So if we talk about our decisions, most of our decisions, and mine for years and sometimes still mine today, come from a place of fear, come from a place of not thinking that we can do something and being afraid of the future. And if you look back on your entire life and you look at some of the biggest decisions that you've made, I want you to answer this question and think about this for a second. Are most of your decisions made from fear, or have most of your decisions come from personal power? For a long time in my life, like a very long time in my life, they came from a place of fear for like 27 years, until I realized that decisions that were made out of fear won't give me the life that I want. If I'm constantly thinking about what I'm afraid of, if I'm constantly trying to avoid something, if I'm constantly trying to keep myself safe at all points in time, I probably will not get the life that I want. Because decisions made from fear are going to keep me in my comfort zone. And the same for you. Decisions made from fear are going to keep you in your comfort zone. And so why Does our brain immediately go to fear? Well, our brain will automatically go to fear almost every time. And the reason why is because our brain is designed to keep us alive. When you look at your amygdala, which is inside of your brain, this is where your brain is creating all of these problems and fears to try to keep you safe and to try to keep you alive. Great 100,000 years ago, but today it's not going to help you because it's going to keep you inside of your comfort zone. So instead of getting the life that you want, you're going to have to basically stay with what you already have because you're going to stay in your comfort zone. And so you have these fears. You have fear of failure and the fear of success and the fear of other people's opinions and the fear of being rejected and all of these fears that we're projecting into our lives. And because we have these fears, we don't do anything. Because we have these fears, we stay in the exact same place we've always been. And so this is why for everyone listening, it's very, very important for us to be very self-aware. Think about this. How many great decisions have you made in your life that came from just fear? I don't mean like the fear of death, like not driving fast, any of those types of things. I mean like the decisions where you have the opportunity for your life to be different, your life to change, for you to challenge yourself to step into a greater version of yourself, but there was some sort of fear of success, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of other people's opinions. So because of that, you decided to play small, or you decided just to take the safe route, or decided to take the path of least resistance. You decided to stay inside of your comfort zone. You decided to give up on a really big goal. How many of those moments have happened in your lifetime? For most people, it's a lot. You know, like an example would be like, let's say that you want to start a business and you have this great business idea and you didn't start the business because you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of putting in the effort and it not being what you wanted to be. You're afraid of disappointing yourself. You're afraid of having to put yourself out there. You're afraid of having to knock on doors and hearing no from people and being rejected. Was that a good and logical decision coming from a place of power and belief and confidence in yourself to not start that business? Or was it a decision that came from a place of fear? Let's say another example is you have an opportunity to invest in your personal development, to learn, to grow, to get better. But you decided not to because it means like, oh man, I'm going to have to put myself out there. What if people say no to me? What if I get rejected? What if I don't become who I want to be in my mind? And you don't invest into yourself. In my mind, investing into yourself is absolutely the best ROI you could possibly have. But a lot of people get to the moment where they're like, you know what? I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to go to a conference. I'm going to do whatever they need to do to learn and grow myself. And then they don't show up. I can't tell you how many times I've run an event and then people literally say to me, I flew into town and I was sitting in the hotel room and I wasn't going to come. Like in that moment, they've done everything. They bought a ticket, they bought a hotel, they bought a plane ticket, they've come there and there's still a part of them that's like, don't go downstairs. And so how many decisions have you made from a place of fear, from playing it safe? Probably a lot, right? For most of us, it's usually a lot. There's less risk in not putting yourself out. There's less risk in not growing a business and not growing yourself. But in life, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. If you don't risk anything in your life, you risk your entire life. And I want you to think about this. How many world-changing moments do you think come from a place of fear, where the world completely changed in some sort of way? How many people do you look up to that you can say they owe it all to their decisions that came from a place of fear? Probably none. How many great inventions or great companies came from a place of fear? Probably none. So what should we be focused on in making our decisions is not from coming from a place of fear, but coming from a place of power. What if you are actually one of the most powerful beings on this planet and you just haven't realized it yet? And maybe there isn't anybody else that's trying to keep you down. Maybe you, because you are afraid of how powerful you could be, have been keeping yourself down. Like, think about this for a second. If you had a genie pop out of a bottle and it was sitting in front of you and it said, you are one of the most powerful beings on the planet, and you looked at the genie and the genie's telling you all this and you're like, oh, I actually believe this. And you somehow in your mind finally believe that you're one of the most powerful beings in the universe. and you finally believed it. I mean, like not thought it'd be a cool idea, or that sounds pretty neat, but like you believe it to your bones. How would your life be different? How would your life change if you went into every single moment knowing I'm one of the most powerful beings in this entire fucking universe? How would your life be different? How would you think different? How would you act differently? You would be night and day different from where you currently are, right? So why don't you just start thinking that? So really start to think about that. How would you be different if you really, truly knew that you were one of the most powerful beings? What would you do? How could you start stepping into who you could be? Imagine that for a second. If you knew without a doubt that you were one of the most powerful beings on this planet, and if you knew without a doubt that you were going to create anything that you wanted to create, how would you be different? You can finally step into who you could be. You can finally step into who you should be, who you're put here to be. Is there a risk in putting yourself out there? Yes, of course. Absolutely. But what could your life be in the future if you started thinking this way? Because once again, will there be risk? Absolutely. But like I said earlier, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. And so everything is going to require you from this moment forward to consciously take a step back, realize that you might be thinking from a place of fear, and try to make a decision from a place of power. If you're sitting there and you think to yourself, am I operating from a place of fear? Then you say, well, what would it look like? What would my decision be if I was operating from a place of power? If I knew 100% that I could not fail at this, what action would I take right now? And then try to start making those decisions. Try to start thinking that way. You will look back having massive regret if you get to the end of your life and the majority of your life is decisions that were made out of fear. Because when you notice the fear, it's a good thing, just so you know. Noticing a fear is a good thing because it is the physical manifestation in your body of your comfort zone. It's your body going, hey, we've got to the edge of our comfort zone. So you're knowing, okay, this is good. We're at the edge of our comfort zone. Most of us, when we feel fear, we back off though. That's just something that we've trained ourselves to do over time. It's a pattern that we have. But what if from this moment forward, you notice the fear? Because once again, that is a good thing. And instead of backing away, you just train yourself just to lean in a little bit more. Lean in just a little bit more. Noticing the fear is a good thing. Listening to the fear is a bad thing. And so what's really important about this is, number one, it's really good to become self-aware and to notice when we start to have our fears pop up. It's good to become self-aware. So we want to start becoming more self-aware because we can't change anything that we're not aware of. And then the second thing is, like I said, it's showing you the edge of your comfort zone. And so you don't want to back away, you want to lean in. So the thought is like, okay, I'm feeling fear. This isn't a bad thing. What is this? This is my body, my brain showing me the edge of my comfort zone. Now, if I want to grow, if I want to be better, should I back away or should I lean in? You know what? I'm going to lean in just a little bit. I could make a choice out of fear, but I also could make a choice out of power. If I knew 100% that there was absolutely no way I was going to fail at this, what would my decision be right now? What would my action be right now? And then you follow through with that. If you start thinking like this, if you start acting like this, if you continue to make decisions from a place of power, your life is going to be completely different in a few years. In 5 years from today, you're going to have a different life, completely different than you ever thought, and it's going to be way better than you can even imagine at this point. But if you sit there and you continue to make your decisions out of fear, you might get to the end of your life and have massive regrets. And the last thing that I want you to do is get to the end of your life and wish that you could have done more, you could have achieved more, that there was more potential that you had that you could have brought to the world. The best thing that you could do is to go, you know what? I'm going to make sure that in the moments that I'm here on this earth, I am going to bring out as much potential as I possibly can. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Are there be moments where I'm full of fear? Yes. Am I going to be scared shitless at certain times? Yes. But if I just consciously remind myself over and over and over again to make decisions out of power, to remind myself that, hey, I might actually be one of the most powerful beings in the universe because, hey, you know that genie that came out of the bottle, it told me I'm one of the most powerful beings in the universe. And you start thinking that way and brainwashing yourself into actually starting to believe in yourself, you think that way and you fast forward in 5 years, night and day difference in what your life can be from what it is in this moment right now. And so when you find yourself in those moments of decision, don't make decisions out of fear. Make decisions out of your own personal power. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on Instagram stories. Tag me at Rob Dial Jr., RobDialjr. The only way this podcast grows is from you guys sharing it. So if you've ever gotten value in anything I've ever said, please share it on Instagram and tag me in it. It helps this podcast grow. It helps us impact more people's lives. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.